Hello and welcome to today's episode of Market Talk. It's great to be joined today by Brian Trollip, Chief Operations Wallah at Dishoom. Fantastic job title, Brian. And also Edward Palin, who is the Commercial Director at Filta Group. Thanks for being with us today. Good to see you both. Brian, we'll kick off with you to begin with. I know you've worked at Dishoom in an operations capacity for a decade now. Obviously this year has been unprecedented in terms of everything that's happened to the industry. Been like for you in an operations capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly been challenging. I don't need to tell anybody that because I think we've all been going through our own challenges. But I think seeing all the doors closed was pretty heartbreaking. I mean, we've worked really, really hard over a decade now to build a business up that we think is pretty special, that looks after or employs 1,000 people within the business, that feeds up to 1 million kids a year that otherwise couldn't afford a meal. And that's a place that people from all walks of life come to break bread. So it was really tough seeing that closed. And operationally, shutting down all the restaurants was really tough. Just trying to think about what that meant for every one of our team members as we went into that was really, really difficult. It's tough to give reassurance at a time when, there was so much uncertainty and the world was getting turned on its head every day. So that was tough. But, out of it have come some great opportunities. I think we're closer to our team now than we've ever been. We sort of, even though we're further apart, managed to reach out and make sure that we were connecting with our team in different ways. And it's been really brilliant to get to know people in different ways, to see them at home on Zoom calls with their kids and to sort of understand and the different challenges that people have been going through, because it has been really, really difficult and different for very, very different people.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, and I mean, what was interesting, I think, with you guys is you were about to launch a new restaurant just at the time the lockdown happened in Birmingham, and obviously you were gearing up for that, and then had to put that on hold. And I understand that is now open, but that must have really provided a challenge from an operational perspective that you'd never faced before.
Yeah, that was really difficult. I think particularly for the team in Birmingham, because we're just trained up, got everyone trained up and ready to go, and we were all super excited for the launch. And then they all had to go home for 4 months essentially, and then come back and get geared up again with very little additional training and prep before we reopened. And it's just been a Herculean effort by everybody in that team, who've done an amazing job bouncing back. No doubt having forgotten a lot of this stuff that we taught them, but it didn't look like that. They did an amazing job getting it open, and we've been welcomed really, really in a really, really beautiful way by Birmingham, despite all the uncertainty, all the crazy things going on. The local community's been fantastic. They've welcomed us really, really well. And yeah, it's going well. We couldn't be happier.
Good stuff. Ed, just to bring you into the conversation now, Filta Group offers a number of solutions for commercial kitchens. So like fryer management, automated extraction, duct cleaning. So what sort of patterns are you seeing as all of these food service operations begin to reopen then?
Well, like Brian says, I think, the word heartbreaking is quite kind of powerful. I think actually we spent a lot of time building this business up, and we are wholly dependent on the restaurant industry. So, watching the lights go out one by one was fairly traumatic. And actually, I think it forced us to look inwards at what we want to do, where we really want to focus. It forced us to look at innovation. So certain things that have been, on the shelf for a while that we'd love to do, we finally dusted off and developed. So it's forced us probably to improve as a business. And fortunately, as the lights have come back on, the business has come back. So we're pretty much back up to near full strength as a business. So, we kind of mirrored the restaurant industry. And actually, we've come out stronger because, we've been through, whether it's databases or whether it's equipment that we've always thought, if we could just do this to this bit of equipment and develop it. So we've really sort of focused on innovation. And I think that's probably the only silver lining of this awful COVID cloud, is that, it's forced innovation. And as Brian said, things like Zoom, the personal connection you now have with people, because you're going into their houses, you're having meetings where you're actually getting to know them as people. So I think it has changed the landscape. Yeah, we're very much bounced back, and yeah, looking forward to hopefully getting through the other side of this.
Excellent stuff. Because I mean, during the pandemic, you launched Filter Shield, which was a sanitisation service that is said to kill the coronavirus. So, what sort of feedback and engagement have you had from the hospitality sector thanks to that innovation?
So, I mean, we're an environmental services business. So, you know, our business is guys in vans providing niche environmental services, whether it's fitting seals on fridges or, you know, the vent system or grease management. So it was a logical thing for us to do, principally to get our customers open and help them stay open. It's been a journey. So there's two services we provide. One is sanitization and the other one is thermal cameras. Thermal cameras have been really strong for us, although bizarrely outside of our normal sector. So offices, schools, you know, government buildings. The sanitization services has been interesting. You know, obviously our customers have got limited resources. What resources they have got, they're spending on getting their own staff to clean. But we've recently, the services evolved, and we've done a really, I don't know if you're aware, we've done a deal with an NHS partnership. So we've actually partnered to provide an NHS-made disinfecting and cleaning standard into the wider commercial space. So it's taken us down avenues we were never down before, and we, you know, it's great to learn new things. And fundamentally, it's this COVID situation has just got to stop. You know, we need to control it. I think for our services, it's more probably appropriate to schools and offices. I think restaurants do have measures in place because they're used to clean spaces, they're used to clean kitchens. But I think it's a combined effort to make sure this just goes away and stays away.
Sure, yeah. Brian, you know, returning the conversation to you, presumably this is an area that you've had to become an expert on as well since reopening the sites. Is it the whole hygiene aspect of everything from the front of house to the back of house?
Completely. I guess being restaurant safety is something that we always take incredibly seriously, and that's no different now, and even, you know, more the case. So we've put some fantastic systems into all of our restaurants. It's sort of a Ream LED. I've written this down because it's a mouthful. Photo hydro ionization systems, which essentially kill viruses, bacteria, anything in the air and on all surfaces within the building instantly upon impact. So those are going through our extract systems in all our restaurants at all times, which certainly makes me feel a lot safer in the restaurants. And they've been tested on numerous sort of viruses, and the science seems really, really solid behind them. So we do that through Chapman's Ventilation, who helped us a lot in getting all of those into all the restaurants. And then on top of that, just generally, you know, we've spent a fortune on putting up screens and barriers within our restaurants, but still trying to make them feel like really beautiful, fun, inviting places that people want to sit down and enjoy their time within. And really listen to our team and work with them a lot just to understand what their concerns are, what things they wanted to be able to feel like coming back to work was a super safe thing for them. And I think the feedback we've had from our team, from our guests, has been brilliant. I think they can see that we're taking it really, really seriously, but at the same time that we're making absolutely sure that Dishoom's still a fun and enjoyable place to come in and spend time. And I think that balance is tough. And I've seen all sorts on the spectrum from restaurants that have been open, and you know, we hope we've got it right, and we just keep doing our best every day on that.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, outside of the COVID measures, what does a Dishoom kitchen look like? You know, when you're planning a kitchen and putting one together, what are the most important things as far as you're concerned?
Well, most important things within any kitchen, I think, are the chefs. I mean, they're the guys who make it absolutely work. But obviously, we've done a huge number of meals out of our kitchens, so there's a lot of heat generated out of that. Great extracts, really, really necessary. Air conditioning into the kitchens. There's all sorts of fancy kit that the guys use within the kitchens that I won't bore you with. But fresh breads, we make upwards of 1,000 fresh breads out of each kitchen every single day. So our tandoor ovens are really, really important there. But largely it's tons of people, to be honest with you, who can make it work.
So, Brian, are you managing to actually social distance within the kitchens then? Have you had to rearrange things to allow chefs to work at their own little mini stations?
We have. There've been some minor menu reductions necessary to help with distancing, and then clear guidance and markings, movement of some of the kit, which is kind of hard within your extract canopies. So it's definitely been a huge challenge. It's not particularly easy to reshape kitchens once they're in and they're sort of fitted out. So that's been really, really challenging. But we're managing to keep everyone safe and distance in a sensible way and working. But that was probably one of our biggest challenges, actually. Very tough.
Absolutely. Ed, just coming back to you, it seems to be that the world and their wife have actually come out with COVID cleaning and hygiene offerings right now. So in terms of your filter shield offerings and your thermal temperature taking, what are the USPs that make them stand out?
I think you're absolutely right. And, we're sort of mindful of the fact, as I said, we're an environmental services business. So, we provide grease trap management, we provide ventilation, servicing. So it's a technical service that we provide. What's quite exciting is the partnership we've done with this NHS Trust is taking hospital cleaning standards into restaurants. As Brian said, the top end operators are very, very good at this. However, not everybody is. And if you go into an office, there isn't anybody trained in cleaning. So I think actually for us, looking at this whole holistic situation, the person who's responsible for your health is ultimately probably the lowest paid person maybe in the operation. I think that's what's been flipped on its head here. I think health and hygiene is really, really important. So the NHS partnership we've signed is to provide training, so it's NHS approved training, and a product made within the NHS service to restaurants. So it's hypochlorous acid. So it's entirely inert, it's pH neutral, you can spray it around people. And we've sort of, as I said, we've been on a journey in this. And we really do think there's within certain parts of the industry, there's a real need to embrace the fact that cleaning has to be methodical. It needs to be a figure of 8. And, there's ways to clean a table. And it isn't just find the nearest dirty cloth and wipe the table. It's using certain products in certain ways. So I think cleaning needs to be at the forefront. If we can help work with the NHS, bear in mind everything we buy from the NHS generates income for frontline patient care. So we do think there's an opportunity here to come together, to support the NHS with this product. And really, we see ourselves as the conduit for doing that. So it's been a journey, and we've arrived with what we think is a fairly unique proposition. It's certainly groundbreaking for the NHS to have done a partnership like that.
Sure. And Ed, Brian was obviously talking at the beginning about how what's happened over the last few months has forced changes in the way that companies operate and the way that staff engage and so on. Has that been the case for you within Filta Group now? Do you feel there's a change in approach in terms of the way you go to market?
Absolutely. So we're really focused on adding value. So there's certain services where we think actually, this is where Filta really are valuable to clients. And there's other services, non-technical services, where maybe not so much. I think also innovation. We've been looking at situations that we've never really thought there's any innovation in, but actually, if we just did this or just did that. So again, there's just different ways of bringing innovation into corners of the kitchen that people don't think about. And I think that's been quite exciting.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, that's a good theme to continue on with for you, Brian. In innovation, what constitutes innovation for you in terms of your kitchens, and what are you looking for moving ahead when the time does come to be investing in kind of new kit and new practices again?
Innovation so far for us has been focused around trying to keep people's jobs and trying to get back in front of our guests. So we've opened up some delivery kitchens as a result of that, which has been a really interesting sort of journey for us. And we're sort of putting a lot of creativity and thought into that at the moment, which is pretty exciting. We've launched bacon arm roll kit, which is now available throughout the country. And we're looking at some really tasty vegan options of that as well, and vegetarian options. So that's where we've been focusing our sort of creative thinking at the moment, is just trying to think pretty hard about how we keep our team. We're pretty determined not to lose anybody throughout this, and as I say, touch wood, we've managed to do that so far.
Right.
And then around safety as well, like I say, the air treatment systems that just make our offices and our restaurants safer places to be within, that's been, you know, super helpful. And we're putting some pay at table solutions as well, which we're sort of trialing in Shoreditch at the moment. That is another thing that we think might be helpful. It's not something that we would have thought of previously. So I think we're all being pushed in ways that may have made us slightly uncomfortable previously, but we're being forced to embrace things and get behind a little bit of innovation and just try and figure out new ways to do things that are going to work in what is definitely going to be a new world once we come out the other side of this, whenever that may be. Because let's be honest, it looks like we're about to go into more uncertainty for a little while, and that could be the case for who knows how long. So I think we've all just got to work pretty hard at moving fast and being a bit agile and finding things to do. So I can't give you any more specifics than that, but that's where we've been focusing anyway.
No, absolutely. So you said that you're launching things like the first ever at-home cookery kit that Dishoom has done. So, I mean, what kind of impact does that have on existing restaurant infrastructure and your existing resources to be trying all of these new things?
Well, I think, I mean, everyone will tell you at the moment, with the distancing and the restrictions and the safety measures that we've got in place, that has a pretty substantial impact on the number of guests that you can look after within your restaurants. So for us, essentially, we've got more people than we can support within the restaurants and with the current situation. So it just really helps us to keep making sure that people can support their families, they're getting paid, we're not having to go in with all sorts of nasty pay cuts and things that you're seeing throughout the industry. It's really, really helping us there. And essentially, we've got additional capacity within the restaurants at the moment, so it's not affecting us too much in terms of us not being able to service what we need to service.
Okie dokie. And you mentioned that obviously there's this threat of either tighter restrictions, curfews, a London lockdown. So how is that kind of affecting your thinking in terms of your focus over the next few months from an operational point of view?
It's tough. I think we want to make delivery absolutely brilliant and just make it incredible and feel like a Dishoom experience as much as is possible. We're still figuring out how to do that, but making small improvements every day. And within the restaurants, I think all we can do is work really, really, really hard to make sure that when people do choose to come and visit us, they have the most incredible experience they can possibly have. They feel really, really safe. And then outside of that, I guess there's a lot out of our hands, but all we can really do is try and make sure that, you know, we provide awesome food and drink, awesome service, make sure our team's happy, and take care of everyone as best we can.
Sure. But Brian, on the delivery kitchen side, is that infrastructure that you have assembled yourself, or are you partnering with the companies like Deliveroo, for example?
We've been working with Deliveroo in terms of our delivery so far, and I think, you know, they've been brilliant partners to us so far, and have really enabled us to move pretty quickly, because I don't really see how we would have done it as we're reopening the restaurants. So initially we did delivery out of the restaurants. As we reopened them, that was really difficult with distancing and safety measures. So we opened a couple of delivery kitchens, and if we hadn't had delivery as a partner with us in that respect, I think it would have been very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, sure, okay. And Ed, presumably there's a knock-on effect for you, is there, with this whole growth in delivery kitchens? Do you see any opportunity there for a business such as Filta?
Absolutely. So we're still getting involved in development of new dark kitchens or commercial kitchens that are not customer facing. I think, back to Brian's point, I think restaurants need to be somewhere welcoming. It's an event to go to a restaurant, and it's really difficult to balance that with all of the COVID measures. I think one of the big issues is customer confidence, which is back up. We need to keep it there. because we need the economy to be generating jobs. We need to pay for obviously all the expenditures so far. So I think it's a tough balance to get that right. But yeah, we see delivery as a sort of, it's grown, it's been vital, I think, for a lot of restaurants during this period. But really, we'd love to see people back in restaurants, sat down, enjoying themselves, enjoying hospitality. That's where we need to be, and we have to keep it there. And I think what expense there is of more restrictions on that market and on the confidence, I think really needs to be considered before any other actions are taken.
Yeah, I mean, do you see Filta as adapting its operations anymore in terms of all of the uncertainty that's going on right now?
I mean, we are, as I said, we're wholly dependent on the restaurant sector, so we need the restaurant sector to function for us to function. We've got guys with jobs, wholly dependent on being able to attend a restaurant and carry out a service to a duct system or a grease trap or fit a seal. We're lucky in that we do work with the supermarket sector as well. So we provide seals for doors and fridges, and obviously those guys have been very, very busy. So that's almost been the delivery for us, if you like, as a business. It's kept us going while the restaurants have been closed, but we really want to be working with the restaurant sector and doing whatever we can to make sure the doors all stay open.
Yeah, so going forwards then, can you see there being more innovations from you guys? Are you going to go into other markets, other types of equipment or services?
I think we're just going to continue to innovate the services we provide. The sanitisation service is really a necessary service for right now. Whatever we can do is I met with a government minister the other day. We're privileged to be involved in this, and I think that the size of the problem is not to be underestimated. This COVID situation is affecting all of our lives, and it's really important that it just gets resolved. And it's very difficult, especially as we go into winter and people coming inside. And obviously there's effects of things like UV that have been containing it with people being outside. And I think we're now going to see what the effects of that are. So whatever services we can provide, it's not the mainstay of our business, but to help restaurants or public spaces protect themselves and keep COVID at bay, then we'll continue to do that. But really our focus is the core services we provide, innovating them, making them save more money for our clients ultimately. I mean, if you take, for example, the fridge seal service, we'll save against the manufacturer's seal. So we think actually probably we'll find customers coming to us because they're looking for those savings. So we're going to stick to what we're good at, Claire, in a short answer, and continue to innovate that.
Sure. Okay. Well, guys, I think we've probably reached our time limit for today's episode. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was really interesting to hear about your businesses and also the huge amount of change that you've had to overcome over the last few months. And irrespective of what's ahead and what's to come, we wish you the very best of luck.
So good talk. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.